What a year it has been in crypto. We saw more enforcement action from regulators here in the US against crypto companies. We saw regulatory advancements around the globe, a high profile crypto trial, and now we're capping off 2023 with major cryptocurrencies hitting fresh highs for the year. What do you think is driving those prices right now? Do you think ETF optimism is part of the equation?
Yes, I do. And yeah, what a year it's been. It's been just never a dull moment. I was told 5 years ago when I came to the crypto industry full time that it was to expect quite an experience, and it has been. But to answer your question, absolutely, there's a few triggers that I think are underway here, and probably the most important one is this ETF optimism. And it's an access point for a whole new segment of investors and of participants. And it's an avenue that works really, really well and is well proven amongst lots and lots of people who participate in traditional financial services markets. So from a crypto perspective, it's just all positive. And we think the more participants, the more healthy the markets, and the more healthy the markets, the more available this technology is to more people.
Do you anticipate that Ether and Bitcoin will continue to climb in 2024? And if so, what are some of the catalysts that will help make that happen?
Yeah, great question. And I try not to speculate on prices, but I'm pretty excited about 2024 for a number of reasons. So, the first is in continuing and even increasing institutional adoption. So we are seeing at Bitstamp a market increase in 2023, even in spite of all of the challenges and the headwinds that the marketplace has faced, the FTX, regulatory uncertainty, banking challenges. In spite of all of these things, institutions, even if they're not trading a lot or investing a lot, they have been onboarding and getting ready, I think, for increased adoption and hopefully some improved regulatory clarity, particularly in this part of the world. In Europe, it's quite a different picture today. There is more regulatory clarity, and in Europe, we are seeing a lot more participation across the board than we're seeing in the US. And Asia also is quite positive. So I think that in 2024, there's going to be quite a few factors that coalesce and improve the markets.
And we'll talk more about regulation in a little bit, but are you by any chance paying attention to the Bitcoin halving that's coming up next year? Usually we see a rally leading up to a halving event. For example, back in 2020 when the last halving event took place, Bitcoin climbed 19% compared to the same day the year before. So is that contributing to Bitcoin's rally? What do you think?
It is and it will, but I confess I don't really know why exactly, right? So historically, to your point, the halving definitely creates interest, creates enthusiasm, creates adoption, and then therefore inflates the price or increases the price, helps to increase the price. But I don't know what the direct correlation is, or if it's just a coincidence kind of, or coincidental factors that are coming together. But I'm happy it's happening, and it is a really important milestone for the ecosystem, for the Bitcoin ecosystem. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's a contributing factor.
Now, many industry experts believe that a crypto ETF will be available in the US early next year. Last time we spoke, you mentioned that you were optimistic it will happen. You noted that a crypto ETF, a spot Bitcoin ETF, was already available in markets like Canada and regions like Europe, and so it would be great if it was available here too. Do you expect it to happen early next year? And if so, will it impact your business at all?
I do expect it. The rumors that I've heard are January even, and I don't think there's a way to forestall it much longer. So I do think it's going to happen, and the biggest impact I think is when you're talking about companies like BlackRock, some of the greatest companies in the world. They don't, they're not doing this out of ideology. They're doing it because there's demand for it. So when they come out with a Bitcoin product, it's a giant stamp of approval. It's just going to give a lot of people confidence to participate.
Now, you are, in fact, the CEO of Bitstamp USA right now, but before that, you worked for the crypto exchange Kraken as its chief commercial officer. Kraken has recently been in the news once again. The SEC recently sued Kraken for allegedly operating as a securities exchange without registering with the agency first. It also alleges that Kraken commingles its funds with customer funds. Kraken said it disagrees with the complaint against them, but what do you think about that development, and what does it signal to the crypto industry, all this enforcement action we're seeing?
Yeah, it's difficult. The SEC has a tough job, right? And I do believe that they're trying to, manage a very complex and fast-moving industry. However, it does puzzle me a bit how they're going about it. So it does seem to be enforcement-led versus more dialogue and rulemaking. But like I said, I don't walk in their shoes. They've got a tough job. As it relates to Kraken, I believe the fundamental challenge between the SEC and Kraken, or the SEC and Coinbase for that matter, is about the nature of cryptocurrencies. However, with Kraken, there's some other questions that were raised in the suit and in the action about commingling of funds and other things. I certainly don't have any information related to that, but I know that Kraken, Coinbase, Bitstamp, these are positive players in the industry that are trying to do the right thing.
Now, other agencies are going after crypto companies. We have seen last month Binance and its CEO pleaded guilty to federal charges and agreed to pay more than $4 billion to resolve the DOJ's investigation against the firm. Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong argues that the Binance fallout represents an opportunity for a new chapter for the crypto industry. Do you agree?
I do. I think that's a really important action for a number of reasons. Firstly, there were so many questions surrounding and swirling around Binance and CZ for a long, long time. And, you worry as an industry participant or perhaps as a customer about what's next. And what I'm very pleased about is that the DOJ took an important action here to level the playing field and basically send the message that there's certain types of things that are just not acceptable in any context, not just crypto or other financial services. But that action was taken and correction is happening without an implosion. What I wanted to avoid was another FTX type scenario where bad practices promulgate and proliferate within a company, and then ultimately there's a giant failure, and that affects the whole industry. We're still dealing with the FTX fallout, and that's hampering our ability to make laws in this country. It's hampering our ability to create trust and credibility, which is really the reason we're here. So I think it's a difficult situation, but probably the best possible outcome given the risks associated with that company.
Do you anticipate we'll see more enforcement action like this in 2024, or do you think it will be a little more subdued as we hopefully get more regulatory clarity here in the U.S.?
Yeah, I don't know. However, I'm cautiously optimistic that lawmakers in Washington, D.C. really are taking the issue seriously. Obviously, as you know, election cycle coming, it's going to be very, very difficult for laws to actually occur. But I did spend some time in D.C. recently meeting with some congressional staffs, and I was very impressed with how, first of all, how knowledgeable they were about the topic, more than I expected, and also how engaged they were on the topic. So they are playing the long game, I would say. So I'm not expecting legislation, in the next 1 to 2 years, but I do believe it's coming. Now, in the meantime, to your question, I do think there'll be additional enforcement action. I think the SEC is going to stay very active. Again, I think they think they're doing the right thing, but again, their approach is a little puzzling from my standpoint.
Now, we have seen some regulatory advancements here in the U.S. In fact, lawmakers advanced the stablecoin bill and the Fit for the 21st Century Act, which establishes a crypto framework. That happened over the summer. Do you think that was enough? What would you like to see from lawmakers in 2024 specifically?
Well, the stablecoin seems like the most actionable piece of this from a legislative standpoint. There seems to be broad agreement about what's important as it relates to stablecoins. So I'm hopeful that if there's anything that they can get done, it would be a stablecoin bill or a code of law or a framework around stablecoins in the near term in 2024. Now, we need more than that. We need a full, comprehensive framework of laws that defines roles of agencies, of regulatory agencies, and provides the right consumer protections that the world needs. In Europe, we're seeing this play out. There's the MiCA framework, which has been adopted and will be coming into force next year. And it is enabling more rational discussion, innovation, participation, and from a Bitstamp perspective, a lot more participation and onboarding, particularly from institutions. They've been waiting, and now they're getting involved, which is positive.
Now, Bitstamp is discontinuing operations in Canada starting January 8th, 2024. So I'm wondering what was behind that decision.
Yeah, it was a tough decision, and the Canadian regulator has been really, really great to work with. And they have a very, very serious and well-structured regime around crypto, which we aim to participate in. But for us at this time, it was a prioritization issue. Basically, there's an awful lot of work, awful lot of product work that's necessary to be 100% in compliance with all of their requirements, and particularly the reporting requirements. And we don't want to do it prematurely until we know we can prioritize that work and get it all done. We just had to make some tough business decisions there. But we will be back. We think it's a very important market, and it's always been a great market to us.
Speaking of business decisions, over the summer we learned that Bitstamp halted Ether staking in the U.S. amid the regulatory environment. You noted that the crypto crackdown influenced that decision, but you also mentioned that Bitstamp might reintroduce Ether staking in the U.S. in the future. So I'm wondering, now that we're entering 2024, maybe we'll get more regulatory clarity. Do you expect that could potentially happen in 2024?
It's hard to say the timing of it, but we do feel strongly that we have a strong offering there, and an offering that makes it very clear where the line starts and stops between our staking product, which is a function of the protocol, the ETH protocol, versus an investment contract. However, we did halt it because why? It was named in an SEC action as a potential issue for the SEC or a securities offering. And from a Bitstamp perspective, and you know us well, we are very, very compliance forward and quite conservative when it comes to regulatory items, issues, or objectives. So out of an abundance of caution, we just said, all right, look, if the SEC at least has questions about it, we're just going to pause it for now. And as more clarity becomes available, then if we can, we'll roll it back out. We do think it's a great offering, but we're having the same issue with tokens. So the SEC has identified certain tokens in their actions. We're not exactly sure what the common denominator is across those tokens they've identified, but that's beside the point. If they've named it, we have respect for the SEC, we listen to the SEC, we're just going to pause those tokens, which we've done.
Now, I came across an Axios article that said that Bitstamp is looking to raise $50 million in its post-FTX expansion. Is that the case? And if so, where would that money be going?
Yeah, we're excited about some additional strategic investment in the business, and the objective is quite simple. We want to go faster. So, given everything that's going on in the market, FTX and Binance and all of this stuff, we think it's a good moment for Bitstamp. So Bitstamp was the first to ever have a license. We're the only crypto company that says we have 7 years of clean audit opinions from a Big Four accounting firm. We have a really, really professional and well-governed company. So we want to use this funding to go faster from a product perspective and to elevate our voice a bit at this moment when I think, obviously I'm biased, but I think more people and more institutions need to be aware of us.